Please go back to your seats. Next, Mr. Shanghai Long, 4 minutes, please. Thank you, Chairman. During the break, I have a brief word with the director. And for the supplementary information to be provided, it is stated that the breakdown of the $730 million, I would like to have the details. For the two projects, I would like to pledge my support, but for the cost of some $700 million for the Tsing Lantau link, I have some reservation. For example, for the assessment of the impact on marine traffic and transport and heritage, I think it is not necessary to increase the work in this respect. So I hope the administration can try to reduce the cost of the consultancy study. I have also asked the director for the 8 companies. They have get hold of most of the works, and most of them are from America and Canada. So they may charge higher consultancy fees. As Mr. Lam Tsing and Mr. Chen Xiuhong, they have also asked why the cost is so high. The administration had explained that because they have to conduct computer modeling and also wind tunnel studies. I would like to know whether these works can be open to the local universities. I think for the computerized wind tunnel tests, I think some of the local universities have the capacity to do so. So I hope we can try to enhance development of INT in Hong Kong and reduce consultancy costs at the same time. For some of the breakdown items, for the preparation of tender documents and tender assessment, it will be $34 million, and the assessment of impacts will cost $56 million. I think the administration should provide more details of the cost breakdowns for these two items. Thank you, Mr. Shang. For the consultants' fees, for the assessment of impacts on traffic, marine heritage, etc., they actually have to be conducted under the EIA. So that's why we have to do these assessments of the impacts. So at the final stage, for example, like the assessment of impacts on land, we have to see whether some of the private land will need to be resumed. So that's why we have to have more detailed study of the precise elements. So we have to carry on such work. For manpower, some of the consultancy firms, their parent company may be from UK or the US, but their staff are actually local staff, mostly. And for the tender bids, we have been using the existing methods, so it is a competitive tender bidding process, and we hope that the tender prices will be reasonable for these studies. For the coming studies, we will try to compress the timetable as far as possible. Thank you, Chairman. Next, Ms. Connie Lam. Thank you, Chairman. For the Line Rock Improvement Project, I think there is a transfer station in Sha Tin, and it has been serving the citizens of Sha Tin and Kowloon. But for the northbound and the southbound transfer stations, there are only some signposts, but there are no signposts for toilet facilities and others. So for people waiting for the buses, it is inconvenient. They may need to answer the call of nature. So for the bus stop in Line Rock, there are actually some 20 bus routes there. So after the expansion of the tunnel, will you try to look at the sort of the transfer stations and try to enhance the facilities there and provide public toilets there? There may need to be some queuing facilities, lighting facilities, or provision of seats, or will you provide free Wi-Fi? So please make use of INT to show the bus schedules, etc. I think the government has all along been encouraging us to use public transport. So I hope that for all the tunnels, bus transfer stations, you will provide toilets, etc., so as to enhance the ancillary facilities for public transport. For the future, the northbound and southbound tunnel tube will become free lane, so there will be more vehicular traffic. For the bus routes, I would like to know whether there will be any reorganization. And will you also take into account the expansion of the bus terminus? Director? Chairman, for this question, I will defer to Mr. Zhang. Project Manager. For the Sha Tin portal, we will increase 6 bus stops for each direction. So for the hardware, the facilities have already been provided, but in future we will work with the transport department as to the design of these transfer stops. Also, we may need to reorganize some of the bus routes, so we will work together with the transport department and try to find out the best option. So there will be 6 bus terminus, and then there will be a flyover so that passengers can walk from one side to the other. For public toilets, I have listened to the views of the residents, and the current plan will include the provision of toilets. Also, we will work with the bus companies and as to see whether other facilities can be provided to provide more convenience for citizens to ride buses. So if there are no further questions, I would like to put this proposal to vote. So members who are in support of paper PWSC 2023/2438, do you all support the proposal? I think you all support it. I can see all hands are raised. So there is no objection. So I think most of the members present support this proposal. This proposal has been endorsed. Next, should we submit this paper to the FC for discussion? As members are aware, according to Section 3 of our PWSC procedure, we propose that the FC will further consider PWSC bracket 2022-23 close bracket 38 paper. So I would like to remind members that if you pass this proposal, we will submit it to the Finance Committee. If you don't support, then that means we don't recommend the FC to further discuss this. So anyone said that the FC should discuss this, please raise your hands. I can see quite a number of hands raised. Those in objection who think that FC doesn't need to discuss it? So members who have voted consider that the paper should be submitted to the FC for consideration. So it's paper PWSC bracket 2023/24 close bracket 38. So these two transport infrastructures are very important, and we all pay attention, attach importance to it. So thank you, government officials, for attending the discussion of this item. Now we move to agenda item 3. The next item, 417RO improvement works at Tai O, paper PWSC bracket 2022/23 close bracket 39. So this paper recommends the upgrading of part of 417 ROS 48300, and the estimated cost is $310.4 million. And this paper has been discussed by the development panel on the 12th of July. Members generally supported this proposal to come to the PWSC, and the major discussion of the panel has been circulated to members via email on the 22nd of February. So officials present for this item include David Lam, Undersecretary for Development, Mr. Alan Wong, CAS of the Development Bureau, Jackie Wu, Head of the Sustainable Lantau Office of CEDD, and Mr. Raymond Yip, Deputy Head of Sustainable Lantau Office of CEDD. So some members would like to speak. First, Mr. Chan Hock Fong, 4 minutes, please. Chairman, generally, I support this proposal because it will enhance the situation in Tai O. But I do have some questions. First, the Tai O clinic is now in a rather remote area. So has the administration considered for building a bridge from the bus stop to the Tai O Primary School and then to Shek Chai Po and all the way to Tai O Clinic? Because right now a lot of the residents of Tai O, if they have to go to the clinic, they have to go through a lot of convoluted roads before they can reach the clinic. So it is not convenient and also not private. So is it possible to construct an emergency lane for this purpose? I noticed that parking spaces will be provided, but do you have charging facilities for electric vehicles? Third, you will try to beautify the Tai O area. But a lot of people now go to Tai O during the weekends. But when they leave, it is difficult for them to find transport. So how are you going to tackle this issue? Because every weekend, I think several thousand people are waiting for buses to get out of Tai O after their visit there. So what can you do about that?
Mr. Lam? Well, I think the member was asking about the construction of a footbridge from the bus stop to Shek Chai Po. This is not included in this project, but we're happy to take it forward because we have the next phase of improvement works in Tai O, and we'll be happy to provide another footbridge to facilitate residents. We're going to provide some 150 parking spaces. These are new parking spaces, and space would be reserved. We have not included the provision of EV chargers on this occasion, but we have made space for that. If need be, we can provide a substation, transformer stations, etc. And also about dispersal of visitors, and one needs to wait for a bus for several hours. Now, we need a number of participants to cooperate, such as franchise bus co-operators, to increase departures. And then, on the north and southbound of Lantau, as mentioned before, a feasibility will be conducted soon. That is to improve the southbound of Kangsan Road. For example, whether it's possible to build a flyover from Shek Pik to Tai O Road, whether a tunnel can be built. We will explore different traffic improvement measures to improve the accessibility and the traffic condition at Tai O. This will help visitors leaving from Tai O. Mr. Chan, so you have reserved space for EV chargers. Why don't you install EV chargers in this exercise? And will you provide EV chargers for 150 parking spaces? We don't rule out this possibility, but we need to discuss with the relevant works department. We have made space with the provision of hardware to 150 cars to be parked there. We need to keep things flexible, however. we just make sure that if need be, EV chargers can be installed for the 150 parking spaces. Now, I think the members' concern is which department will make this decision of installation of EV chargers, and perhaps you should include this in your project this time. Right, let me supplement. We need to have further discussion with the EEB, Environment and Ecology Bureau, because this involves electric vehicles. Well, I think the discussion should have taken place before you submit this proposal to the subcommittee, because it is a necessary infrastructure nowadays. What's the point of having a further discussion? Next, Mr. Jackie Wu, head of the office, would you like to supplement? We're aware of the issue. The Environmental Protection Department or the Environment and Ecology Bureau are contemplating the relevant measures on the promotion of electric vehicles. On the provision of EV chargers for outdoor parking, they are coming up with a proposal, and once they have finalized the proposal, we will be happy to cooperate. All right, so the reason is that this is an outdoor car park, so things are different from an indoor car park. Is that right? Mr. Choi, would you also like to supplement, Director? Of course, the EPD and the EEB definitely support the installation of EV charging facilities outdoors. This is also the stance that our Bureau takes policy-wise. So if this is your policy that EV chargers should also be installed for outdoor parking, then shouldn't you make the same decision for this project, Mr. Wu? Right. After the meeting, we will finalize on the number of chargers to be installed with the relevant departments, and the chargers will be installed. All right, that clears the air. Mr. Tsing, I support this project in general. The tile improvement project brings more convenience to residents. Tile is also a tourist attraction, especially for green and ecotourism. And at the crossboat area, many visitors will also visit Po Chi Tam and the temple after buying dried seafood there. Now, I am concerned about the amphitheater, come open space. It's not easy to find such a space in an urban area. Of course, in the future, upon completion, I want to make sure that this will be fully utilized to serve tourists as well as locals. Now, for the car park, would there be more parking spaces for coaches? We have local one-day tours on weekends, and the coaches are usually parked near the public bus terminal. And if you are going to provide a new car park, you should provide parking space for coaches in order to address the situation in which coaches are strewn in the vicinity of the public bus terminal. Also, we encourage the use of solar panels. You also encourage more village houses to install solar panels on their rooftops. So for this project, will solar panels be installed for new facilities to generate electricity? On the first question, we will fully utilize the amphitheater. The LCSD will be in charge of its management, and Shen Gongxi or Chinese opera will have to be performed two or three times a year in the future, and the LCSD will be allowing the hiring of the venue by relevant organizations to give performances. So rest assured. Next, about this car park in Yim Tin, we will keep the 17 parking spaces for coaches. We will not take them away, and we also have 13 instead of 11 parking spaces for heavy vehicles. For solar panels, usually for larger buildings, we install solar panels. Say even for drainage works, we install solar panels on the rooftops. But here we're talking about some outdoor facilities without a rooftop, such as an amphitheater come open space. So it is unlikely that solar power panels can be installed, but we'll consider the installation if possible. No follow-up question, Mr. Kwok Wai Keung, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chair. We support this project in principle, but I have a number of questions. First, paragraph 17 and 18 of the paper, according to your assessment, there should not be long-term implications on the environment, and low noise procedures will be carried out at the construction stage. But in the event of non-compliance, would it be possible for residents to lodge complaints? Are they aware of the available avenues? I think that you consulted the district council, but I'd like to refer to the same issue. Are residents living near the two bridges, including Long Tin Street and Sun Cave Village, aware of the project? Have they expressed their views? And according to the paper 3, you will complete the construction of 2 bridges, 1 open space, parking, a car park, and other miscellaneous works in 3 years. That seems to entail a lot of work, but you haven't given us the breakdown of the work schedule. Say, does it take 3 years to build 2 footbridges? Are you going ahead with the car park first or the amphitheater first? We'd like to have more details. And I understand for the 2 footbridges, you adopt an open design. It can be opened so that you can continue to hold the Tile Dragon Boat Water Parade. Now, if the total construction period is 3 years, will it in some way affect this intangible cultural heritage activity called Tile Dragon Boat Water Parade? At the construction stage, we will set up liaison groups comprising contractors, residents, and government departments. So in case of emergency, residents can reach us through the liaison groups. Now, have we taken on board the suggestions of residents? The answer is yes. We adjusted the project layout after consulting a shipyard, and we have had frequent discussions with residents. Third, about works schedule. Yes, this project entails different aspects. The footbridge will take 3 years to complete because, first of all, we're talking about 2 footbridges. This will take some time. We need time for, say, the transport of construction materials, and we also need to stop working for certain periods, say for Tile Dragon Boat Water Parade. There are 30 parking spaces in the area, and there is also an open space for Chinese opera or Shen Gong Xi to be held 3 times a year. So say we find an open space in the first year to complete the 50 parking spaces. And if we phase it this way, before we proceed to phase 2, we work on the existing parking, 30 parking spaces, and then the area for Shen Gong Xi, then we should be able to minimize the impact and achieve some results. And about the footbridges that can be opened, Whether this will affect Tai O Dragon Boat Water Parade, the answer is no. We will work our schedule around the festival. Mr. Chan Siu Hong. This is improvement works at Tai O Phase 2, Stage 2 to enhance connectivity, to improve open space, provide public parking facilities, and improve the local environment. I support the project. I have a number of questions. In Yuen Tin, Po Chu Tam, 2 footbridges will be constructed, and the administration just now answered the question in part. The purpose is to enhance local connectivity, bring convenience to pedestrians as well as emergency vehicles. And in designing the footbridges, you consider the unique tradition of Tai O, such as Tai O Dragon Boat Water Parade, for example. In this festival, some divine statues will be put on boats to go under the footbridges, and therefore the footbridges should be designed in an open manner. Is it because of religious reason that you design the footbridges in such a way, or is it because the fairway is used by other working vessels? Because the waters there seem quite shallow. And is it possible to adopt a more arched footbridge design instead of using an open design? Say each footbridge spans 120 to 140 with a width of 3 meters on the deck. Well, say if you provide a steel structure of 40 meters by 3 meters, that is a rather heavy footbridge, and I'm concerned about the operation and the opening and closing of the footbridge and the maintenance fees, and upon completion of construction, who should be responsible to foot the bill. Now, according to the paper, the recurring expenditure is one of $2.8 million. Now, if it's not opened frequently, the parts may become rusty. So if it can be avoided, it shouldn't be designed as an open type footbridge. And if it is not avoidable, you should explain who should be responsible for the maintenance fees. We want to keep Tai O's unique tradition. In fact, there is already an existing open type footbridge. During the Tai O Dragon Boat Water Parade, they don't want anyone to be above the divine statues as they pass through the footbridge. And anyway, the footbridges can be opened to become a viewing platform. As you can see in the enclosure, at the moment, visitors. We have crowds of visitors viewing the parade, and in the future we provide another viewing platform.
On Part 12 of the paper, we have pointed out the annual recurrent expenditure is $2.8 million, and $1.5 million will be used for maintaining the bridges. They include the mechanical maintenance, etc. On the operation of the bridge to be open, when it is necessary to be open, the Highways Department, the Police Department, the Home Affairs Department will jointly look into the operation and be responsible for opening and closing the footbridges. You've also asked whether we can have another design for the bridge, but the height of the bridge deck is similar to the existing bridges. So for Mr. Wu, do you have anything to supplement on the technical aspects? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Member. To ensure that during the Dragon Boat Parade that the footbridges can be opened, we would have to carry out daily maintenance. And also we have put in place an arrangement. So 4 weeks before the Dragon Boat Water Parade, there will be an drill or an exercise. So the departments concerned will work together to see how to open the bridge smoothly. As the Undersecretary has pointed out, we have chosen the design of a bridge that can be opened because we want to respect the tradition in Tai O. So they do not want people to walk on top of the divine statues. Also, they want the divine statues to be able to reach open air. There shouldn't be anything above them. Just to clarify, so it is because of a religious requirement that you can't have a bridge over the Dragon Boat Water Parade. If you say you don't want people to walk across it, you can stop people from walking across it during the parade. But if you say that it is a religious requirement, then of course I think we have to respect it. My concern is for the operation of the opening and closing of the footbridges. I think safety of the pedestrians is very important. Time is running out, but I would allow you more time for you to explain as to how the bridges will be opened. If you would allow me, I would like to refer to enclosure 2 of the paper. There are 2 maps. The big one shows the bridge when it is closed. The small map underneath shows the opened condition. So you can see that for the Yim Tin footbridge, it will be swing to the land side. I'm not sure whether I have made myself clear. So the footbridge will be open to the land side. For the proposed footbridge at Bo Chi Tam, the bridge will be open towards Cut Hang Back Street. So it will become horizontal like a viewing deck. So if you look at the artist's impression 2, you can see the situation of the bridge when it is opened. Maybe I didn't make it very clear. Mr. Wu has pointed out that when the statues come out, they need to be shown to the open air. So for management, we will try to look into the safety when opening the footbridges. Mr. Andrew Lam. Chairman, just a follow-up on Mr. Chan's question. I want to clarify. So for the opening and closing of the footbridge, the existing bridge can also be opened. Is it only used for the purpose of the Dragon Boat Parade? I seem to recall that it needs to be open for some vessels to pass by. For footbridges that can be open, if you open them more frequently, of course there will be wear and tear, and there would need to be other considerations. So for the design of the footbridge, apart from the Dragon Boat Parade, will there be other needs for the footbridges to be opened? If yes, then we can see how we can work with the design so as to minimize the times for the bridge that need to be opened for other purposes. Mr. Wu? Thank you for the question. For the current design, please speak closer to the mic. For the design of the footbridges, the net height between the water level and the bridge deck has been consulted. It has been consulted amongst various stakeholders, including the residents and the shipyards. So generally, the net height will be able to meet demand. But then we will also provide a hotline. If there is a special situation when there is a very tall vessel that needs to pass by, they can inform the relevant departments and we will open the footbridge for the purpose. But for the time being, we can see that the major demand for opening the bridge is for the water boat parade. So what about the siltation situation? Mr. Wu? Is there a need for dredging? How frequent will that be? Well, Chairman, you asked me not to speak in English, but I need to use the word dredging, because from time to time you need to conduct dredging for the river. So I would like to know more about that. Undersecretary? Sorry, I don't have the information at hand. I will provide that after the meeting. Any follow-up? Next, Mr. Lee Chen Kang. Thank you, Chairman. In principle, I support this proposal. There are several points that I want to share with the administration, and there are some questions. Some members have pointed out about the illegal parking activities there. So how are you going to tackle that, especially during festive events? You only rely on police officers to drive vehicles away. I think that is not very effective. Can you provide more parking space and widen the roads? I noticed that for the footbridges and for the front line, for the front area for the open area in front of the temple, there are no shelter. So for the residents and the visitors, they would include young children and the elderly. So for Hong Kong, there will be rainy season, and they may sometimes have heat stroke. So if you're going to have enhancement work, can you allow emergency vehicle to pass through? We all know that for Tai O, the roads are very narrow, and the emergency vehicles have to be particularly small in order to use the roads. So can you improve the situation? Under Secretary, thank you, Mr. Lee, for your questions. Well, actually, the footbridges is not only helpful for the residents and the visitors, it is helpful for the emergency vehicles as well. We have liaised with the Fire Services Department. They have smaller scale emergency vehicles, and in future, they can use the footbridge in order to attend to people's needs. For example, in Shan Kee Street, now they have to walk across, but if there is a bridge, then the emergency vehicle can actually drive through it and be able to get to the scene earlier. You've asked whether there are any protection for the or cover for the footbridges, but I think Tai O is kind of like a more small rural area, and the residents do not want to have a very obtrusive cover for the footbridge. So we have taken into account the situation of Tai O in particular. So you're not going to provide a cover, but will you provide some shelters along the way so that for the elderly, they can sort of take a rest, because it is a rather long walk? And can you have also some drinking fountains to be provided? Thank you. When we look at the open area, we'll try to provide more shadings and more facilities like drinking fountains. Thank you. Next, Mr. Kwok Wai Keung, second round, 3 minutes, please. I have 2 questions. I have looked at the maps in detail. For the Po Chu Tam Bridge, it is easier to understand as to how it would be opened. But for Yim Tin Footbridge, how are you going to open it? The map doesn't show it very clearly. The second question. So the need for opening the bridge is because of the Dragon Boat Parade. But my concern is that if the bridge is only going to be open for once or twice a year, would it be easier for it to get rusty and it would be more difficult to open? Should you regularly, say on a monthly basis, try to open the footbridge? Or before the Dragon Boat Parade, say 1 month ahead, you try to test the opening of the footbridge? Thank you, Chair. I would like to remind members, Mr. Kwok, after the administration answer your questions, we will need to put this item to vote. So we may overrun a bit after 10:30. We will extend the meeting for a bit. Mr. Wu? I'll go first, Chairman. We have maintenance for the footbridges. As I said, we will have $1.5 million every year to ensure the operation of the footbridges. As I have pointed out before the Dragon Boat Parade, 4 weeks ahead of that, we will try to have a drill, have an exercise to open the footbridge. But in case there is any failure, we can open it manually. This is a mechanical issue as to how the bridge will be opened, and I will defer to Mr. Wu. For the Yim Tin footbridge, it is kind of like a design that is horizontal across the bridge. So it is going from Long Shing Street to Sun Key Street. So if you look at the map, it will swing to the left. It will gradually shift to the left horizontally. I would suggest that maybe after the meeting, can you provide us with more information, because it is difficult for us to appreciate, because when you thought of open close, we may think that it is going to be open upwards, but you are saying that it is going to be slided horizontally, and we can't sort of figure that out now. Any further supplements? If there are no further questions, I will put this item to vote. Members who are in support, PWSC 2022/2339 paper. If you are in support of the proposals therein, please raise your hands. I think you all support the proposal. It is unanimous to support. Any objections? No? Then I think members who have participated in the vote support the proposal. This proposal has been endorsed. Now the next question as to whether the paper should be further discussed by the FC. Let's vote. So the PWSC suggests that the FC further discuss paper PWSC 2022/2339, the proposals contained therein. So no members raise their hands. Any objection? Most members object. Thank you. So I think members who have participated object to this proposal. So the PWSC do not recommend that the FC further discuss PWSC 2022/2339. So the two proposals will be considered by the Finance Committee in March or later. The next meeting of the PWSC will be held on the 29th of March, 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. So members, please attend the meeting. And thanks government officials for attending the meeting. Meeting adjourned.